Imagine discovering that there are places on Earth that defy all scientific explanation. Locations where ancient people believed hell connected with the world of the living, where forbidden rituals were performed, and where inexplicable phenomena still occur to this day. But what is truly hidden in these places? And why does the Vatican seem so interested in them? Houska Castle, in the Czech Republic, was built without defensive foundations, without a clear purpose, and precisely over an abyss that, according to legend, was a gateway to hell. During World War II, the Nazis took possession of the castle, conducting mysterious experiments that were never fully explained. But what were they trying to discover there? And what did the Vatican do after the war ended? Stull Cemetery, in Kansas, is known as one of the 7 gates of hell. Few dare to approach, and those who do report inexplicable sounds, sudden temperature changes, and even shadows moving between the graves. The site is so feared that even former US presidents avoided passing through it. But why? What is hidden beneath the soil of this cemetery? And most frighteningly, secret documents suggest that both Houska and Stull may somehow be connected. But who wants to keep this truth hidden? And what if the Vatican really is protecting information about these portals? Get ready, because today we will explore 7 shocking pieces of evidence that could change everything you think about reality. But beware, once you know this, you will never see the world the same way again. There are places in the world that defy logic, and Houska Castle is one of them. Built in the 13th century, this castle in the Czech Republic seems to make no sense. There is no water source, it doesn't protect any trade routes, and curiously, its fortifications face inward, as if they were meant to contain something rather than repel invaders. Legend has it that Houska was built over a bottomless pit, a true portal to hell, from which demonic creatures emerged. Local monks reportedly sealed the fissure with stones and prayers, but accounts claim the evil was never truly contained. One of the most terrifying episodes involves death row prisoners. According to records, one of them was offered as a guinea pig, tied to a rope. He was lowered into the hole to see what was inside. Within seconds, his screams of horror echoed through the castle. When pulled back up, he was unrecognizable, his hair had turned white, his face looked decades older, and he couldn't articulate a single coherent word. This story, passed down through generations, fuels the myth that Houska Castle houses something that doesn't belong in this world. But what if it's not just a myth? Secret documents from the time reveal that influential nobles and clergy avoided the castle at all costs. For centuries, few dared to live there for long, and those who tried reported disturbing visions. Shadowy silhouettes wandering the corridors, voices whispering in unknown languages, and knocks emerging from the floor, as if something was trying to get out. Skepticism may try to explain some of these manifestations, but the accounts are too consistent to ignore. The most unsettling part is that the Nazis themselves, during World War II, became obsessed with Houska Castle. Records show that SS troops took over the castle and conducted dark rituals within its walls. They sought power, perhaps a hidden energy source, or even contact with something that transcends human understanding. If there was anything paranormal there, the Nazis seemed determined to uncover and possibly control it. Even today, the few who visit the castle report feelings of chest pressure, sudden chills, and a strange certainty that they are being watched. Some tourists have fainted without explanation, and local guides avoid certain areas of the castle at night. The hole may be sealed, but many believe that Houska Castle remains a point of access to something that shouldn't be here. And what if Houska is just one piece of a much larger puzzle? There are other places in the world surrounded by equally macabre stories. One of them, in the United States, is known as Stull Cemetery, a site where legends speak of underground staircases leading to something the church prefers not to comment on. In the heart of Kansas, lost among dirt roads and empty fields, lies Stull Cemetery, a place that has fueled rumors for decades as one of the 7 gates of hell. At first glance, it appears to be just a small rural cemetery, but those who know its history realize that something is very wrong there. Legends say that hidden beneath the ruins of the old church are underground staircases that lead to an unknown destination. According to the tales, those who descend them never return, or worse, come back changed. Many believe that Stull is one of the few places on Earth where the devil himself makes regular visits. There are accounts that on certain nights of the year, shadowy figures are seen walking among the graves. Some swear they've heard voices coming from the ground, whispering in indecipherable languages. Others talk about a strange energy, a weight in the air that makes even skeptics hesitate before crossing the gates. Reports indicate that even birds avoid flying over the cemetery, as if sensing something dangerous beneath the earth. The stories became so well known that even the Vatican reportedly commented. Rumors suggest that secret church documents describe Stull as a site of intense paranormal activity, though they have never been officially disclosed. Strangely, priests who have passed through Kansas refuse to comment on the location, and there are rumors that the ruined church was mysteriously destroyed overnight, without official explanation. What were they trying to hide? Not only locals avoid the cemetery. In 1993, when the band The Cure scheduled a concert in the region, lead singer Robert Smith refused to set foot in Kansas, claiming he didn't want to be near Stull. Even then President George W. Bush had his flight route altered to avoid flying over the area. Coincidence or precaution? No one knows for sure. What is certain is that to this day, Stull remains surrounded by secrets that defy any logical explanation. Still, some dare to venture in. A few urban legend hunters have managed to enter the cemetery at night, and their recordings are disturbing. Strange radio and cell phone interference, shadows moving on their own, and in some cases, unexplained fainting spells. There are even stories of visitors who, after leaving the site, began experiencing recurring nightmares and strange events in their homes, as if they had brought something back with them. But Stull and Houska Castle aren't the only places where the inexplicable manifests. Around the world, there are reports of paranormal experiences that challenge human sanity, from spectral apparitions to voices seemingly coming from nowhere. And the scariest part? Many of these events have been documented. Anyone who ventures into places like Houska Castle or Stull Cemetery rarely leaves without a disturbing story to tell. And we're not just talking about vague sensations or psychological scares, there are records of events so specific and intense that even the most skeptical hesitate before dismissing them as mere coincidences. Apparitions, voices with no apparent origin, and even inexplicable physical attacks are just some of the phenomena reported. But what is it about these places that makes them so charged with mystery? In the case of Houska Castle, witnesses describe humanoid shadows lurking in the corridors, figures that seem to dissolve into thin air when observed directly. There are reports of screams coming from the ground, as if something is still trapped beneath the castle. Some tourists claim that when they take pictures at the site, strange shapes appear in their images, distorted faces, impossible silhouettes, lights that weren't there when the photo was taken. Then there are the more extreme cases, people who say they were pushed or scratched by something invisible. Stull Cemetery, on the other hand, is no less unsettling. Visitors report whispers emanating from the graves, as if underground voices were trying to communicate. Some of these voices have been recorded by paranormal investigators, and the content is chilling, disjointed words, distorted laughter, pleas for help. On certain nights, some swear they see a hooded figure walking among the graves, disappearing whenever someone approaches. An intriguing detail is that records of these occurrences tend to increase during Holy Week and Halloween, periods often associated with occult rituals. And don't be fooled into thinking these stories are limited to unsuspecting visitors. Secret Vatican documents reportedly mention investigations conducted by clergy at these sites, where signs of dark rituals and activities defying any rational explanation were found. There are unconfirmed reports that priests sent to exorcise these points simply disappeared or refused to speak about what they saw. Could these regions be rifts between worlds, where the rules of reality are different? And what about the connections between these phenomena and history? During the Nazi occupation of Europe, it's known that SS officers were obsessed with the paranormal and conducted numerous experiments in search of hidden energy sources. Some believe that Houska Castle was one of these testing sites, a place where they tried to open portals to something beyond our understanding. And if what they were seeking is still there, lying in wait, ready to emerge at the right moment. But these mysteries aren't confined to the past. There are modern records, testimonies from local residents who live near these places and deal with the inexplicable daily. What do they have to say? The residents of areas near Houska Castle and Stull Cemetery are used to questions from curious visitors and urban legend hunters. But when they talk about the subject, there's always a look of unease, as if they don't like bringing certain memories to the surface. Many avoid going near these places after nightfall. Some, when questioned, simply refuse to talk, not out of fear of ridicule, but as if they know that certain things shouldn't be mentioned. Near Stull Cemetery, one resident recounted that his family has lived in the area for generations, and strange stories have always been part of his childhood. He says that as a child, he heard his grandparents warn never to set foot in the cemetery at night. It wasn't superstition, he says, it was a real warning. According to him, some early mornings were marked by distant screams, and on certain mornings, the graves appeared disturbed, as if something had emerged from within them. There's also the case of a woman who, while visiting a relative buried there, saw her own shadow move differently from her body. Near Houska Castle, the accounts differ but are equally chilling. Residents say they often spot strange hooded figures walking around the castle grounds, especially on moonless nights. Some talk about an inexplicable feeling of oppression, as if something is constantly watching them. One of the most disturbing testimonies comes from a hunter who used to pass through the forest surrounding the castle. He claims to have encountered a man dressed in ancient clothing who asked him a question in an unknown language and, before he could respond, vanished into thin air like smoke. Curiously, there are reports that certain secret groups visit Stull Cemetery and Houska Castle discreetly. Residents mention seeing luxury vehicles arriving at night, carrying people in robes and strange bags or boxes. The presence of strange symbols drawn on the ground, which disappear after a few rains, reinforces the theory that something is still being practiced at these sites. Are they just occult enthusiasts, or is something far more sinister at play? Despite the many accounts, there's official resistance to recognizing these occurrences. Local authorities treat everything as exaggerated legends, and those who try to investigate further encounter unexpected barriers. Some filming attempts were abruptly interrupted by unidentified individuals who ordered the curious to leave immediately. Coincidence? Or does someone have an interest in keeping these secrets buried? What's even more striking is the possible connection of these sites to historical events. There's evidence that during World War II, Nazis visited Houska Castle in search of something that could change the course of the conflict. But what exactly were they looking for? During World War II, the Nazi regime wasn't limited to conventional weapons and military strategies. The obsession of SS leaders, especially Heinrich Himmler, with the occult led to frantic searches for mystical artifacts, portals to other dimensions, and ways to manipulate unknown energies. Houska Castle entered this radar, and there are records that the Nazis occupied the site and conducted secret experiments within its walls. But what exactly were they trying to find there? Some say the Nazis believed the hole beneath the castle was a kind of portal to another reality, possibly to hell or a source of power beyond human comprehension. Reports suggest prisoners were brought to the site for testing, and there are mentions of secret documents referencing rituals, ancient symbols, and bizarre experiments with sound and vibration. Theories claim they were attempting to use this portal for contact with entities or to extract hidden energy to fuel their war machine. Whatever happened inside the castle during those dark years, one thing is certain: something made the Nazis abandon the site suddenly, as if they had found more than they could handle. And it wasn't just Houska Castle that caught the Nazis' attention. Stull Cemetery also reportedly intrigued occultists of the time. Allegedly, infiltrated agents scoured the region for underground tunnels and ancient documents that might contain information about interdimensional portals. There are theories that certain churches and even secret religious orders may have hidden secrets there, perhaps to prevent them from falling into the wrong hands. The most disturbing part is that after the war, many of the SS files on these operations simply disappeared. Few documents came to light, but there are references to places like Houska and Stull in reports mentioning the search for entrances to the underworld. Some researchers believe the most compromising files were confiscated and locked away in secret Vatican facilities as part of an effort to keep these mysteries out of public knowledge. If this is true, the inevitable question arises: what was in these places that was so valuable, or dangerous, that the Nazis, and possibly the Vatican, tried to control this information? Were these just exaggerated legends, or is there something much deeper hidden within these stories? What we know for sure is that even today, access to historical documents about these investigations remains strangely restricted. But it's not just the Nazis and the Vatican that showed interest in these places. Even now, explorers and tourists try to access Houska Castle and Stull in the hope of feeling or witnessing something extraordinary. But are these visits safe? What happens to those who venture too far? If there's something that raises even more suspicion about Houska Castle and Stull Cemetery, it's the way information about these places seems to simply vanish or be shrouded in mystery. Fragmented historical records, lost or sealed documents, and even the involvement of influential church figures suggest that there is much more to this story than what is officially told. And whenever there are gaps in historical archives, it's because someone, at some point, decided that certain truths should not be accessible to the public. Paranormal researchers claim that documents from the Nazi SS mention Houska as a center for experimentation with unknown forces. Curiously, after the end of World War II, part of these files was mysteriously transferred to private hands. Some believe that the Vatican, with its history of collecting and hiding artifacts considered dangerous, took possession of writings and objects found in the castle. What exactly was in these documents? Notes on rituals. Testimonies of failed experiments. Records of something the Nazis discovered and tried to control. The Catholic Church has always had a complex relationship with paranormal phenomena. For centuries, demonic possessions have been studied, exorcisms performed, and certain places deemed cursed, forbidden to be stepped upon. The Vatican maintains a vast library of forbidden texts, which supposedly contains descriptions of portals to other dimensions, possessions, and locations where the veil between worlds is thinner. If Stull Cemetery really is one of the 7 gates of hell, why hasn't the Church officially commented on it? More intriguing still, if nothing real exists in these places, why are there reports of priests who visited Stull and disappeared from historical records shortly thereafter? Another piece of evidence that raises suspicions is the unofficial prohibition of certain research. Independent historians who attempted to access archives related to Houska and Stull claim to have encountered inexplicable barriers. Some were discouraged by local authorities, others received vague responses when requesting specific documents. There are also cases of journalists who tried to investigate further but whose reports were cancelled without explanation. For those controlling this information, it seems more convenient to keep these mysteries in the realm of urban legends. But why keep it a secret? If these places truly guard portals or some force that defies human understanding, then there are enormous implications. Imagine if there really were a physical connection between our world and something beyond our control. If ancient documents describe specific rituals that could activate or seal these passages, then knowledge of such material would be dangerous in the wrong hands. This would explain why certain ancient texts have simply disappeared from history and why some information is never released to the public. However, this doesn't stop explorers and tourists from trying to get closer to the truth. But is visiting these places just a dark adventure, or are there real risks? Many who have tried to explore Houska or Stull report experiences that go beyond comprehension. And some never return to normal after entering these sites. If you're thinking about visiting Houska Castle or Stull Cemetery, it's important to be aware that this isn't an ordinary trip. These places carry stories of unexplained events and are surrounded by prohibitions and mysteries. Unlike any medieval castle, Houska was never designed for defense or royal habitation, it was built to keep something trapped inside. Stull Cemetery, on the other hand, may look like any ordinary holy ground, but its reputation as one of the 7 gates of hell has led to unauthorized visits being repressed by security and even local police. So, how do you get close to these places? Houska Castle, located in the Czech Republic, can still be visited, but with restrictions. Access to the interior of the castle is limited to guided tours, and certain underground areas, where the portal to hell is said to be, are completely off-limits to the public. Tourists report an inexplicable malaise upon entering the castle, and some say they felt invisible presences following their steps. If you decide to visit, be prepared for an intense experience. If you believe in spiritual energy, it might be wise to bring something for protection, an amulet, a prayer, or anything that works for you. Stull Cemetery, located in Kansas, is an even more complicated case. Officially, the cemetery is closed to the public, and there are reports that anyone found there after sunset can be fined or even arrested for trespassing. But why would an ordinary cemetery require such strict security? Some say there's something in that soil that shouldn't be disturbed. Still, some adventurers have managed to enter and reported disturbing sensations, watches stopping, inexplicable sounds, and even changes in air temperature when approaching certain graves. And it's not just unsuspecting tourists who try to explore these places. Ghost hunters and paranormal researchers have attempted deeper investigations, but many of these expeditions were interrupted by unexpected events. Some say cameras and electronic equipment fail when trying to record something inside Houska or Stull. Others tell stories of entities that seem to follow those who dare to explore too much. There are even cases of people who return from these visits with recurring nightmares and unexplained symptoms of anxiety, as if they had brought something back with them. But what if you want to see these places without taking risks? Today, there are documentaries and videos that explore both locations in detail. Satellite images, maps, and historical records are available online. Some people claim to have captured voices and apparitions in footage taken at Houska Castle, while recordings at Stull Cemetery show mysterious noises that defy any logical explanation. If visiting in person isn't an option, diving into these records might be the safer alternative, and still, no less frightening. But what does all this mean? Are these just exaggerated legends, or is there something truly inexplicable in these places? What were the Nazis looking for in Houska? What might the Vatican be hiding? And most importantly, if these portals really exist, what could happen if they are opened again? Now that you know the hidden secrets of Houska Castle and Stull Cemetery, an inevitable question arises: why were these stories so well hidden? Are we dealing with simple urban legends, or is there something much deeper that they don't want us to know? Accounts of possessions, secret rituals, and paranormal experiences point to something that defies any logical explanation. And more, what does the Vatican know about these portals? What led the Nazis to explore Houska Castle? Why do authorities and researchers try at all costs to prevent deeper investigations? If these places were nothing more than exaggerated stories, why do so many accounts coincide over the centuries? Could there be other hidden portals around the world, waiting to be discovered? Now, I ask you, do you believe that these gates to hell really exist, or is it all just coincidence? Would you have the courage to visit one of these places and test for yourself what is true in these stories? Or would you rather not risk it and leave this mystery buried in time? If you enjoy this type of content and want to know more about mysteries, historical secrets, and paranormal phenomena, subscribe to the channel and activate notifications. Your like is very important to us.